All right, welcome back to Starting Point on TVRI World. Still with me, Siska Becker, and my partner, Aisha Fabian.
Yes, who cannot climb a mountain?
Yes.
I have to admit from the start.
Yes, definitely. But we are lucky enough, fortunate enough to have a very special guest joining us in the studio. She's an awesome person. Not only that, she is quite adventurous, but we can say that she is the first Indonesian ever to reach South Pole. Now, we've been complaining sometime that how cold the studio is. Now we feel like we're not worthy. No, we should not say that. With her attending the studio right now, someone who's been in the South Pole, Putri Handayani. Hello, good morning, Mbak Putri.
Good morning, Mbak Putri. Mbak Siska.
Very good to have you here. Thank you so much for taking the time in the morning to
Thank
come
you.
see us. So first of all, congratulations
Thank you.
on the major accomplishment. The first Indonesian, not first Indonesian woman, the first Indonesian ever to reach the South Pole. Now, before we talk about that expedition and your upcoming projects, please tell us more a little bit about yourself, about your life journey. How did this love and passion of exploring begin?
Okay, well, I'm from North Sumatra, so I was in the Scouts when I was a kid. In junior high school.
Okay, Pramuka.
Pramuka, that's right. So I trekked the mountains, Sibayak, when I was 13.
That was your first mountain?
That was my first mountain, and then I just love it. And of course, I went to the outdoor club in university. And then after that, it just like continues on and on, right? But of course, like starting from the 2000s mountain, 3000 mountains, and it just getting bigger and bigger.
Wow.
That's how I start the mountain.
So what is it about mountains that you love, that you keep pursuing? And I'm sure that was the first time you have this feeling of ecstasy, of this.
That's right. Well, I think it's different depend on your life phase, right? Like when you're a kid, you don't think about stuff, right? Okay, you try this, you try that, and you love it, right? And for me, it's the same way. I go to the mountains, and for 13 years old kid, you see the sunrise from the top of the mountain. It's like the wonder of the world, right? So that's when we were kids. And then when we get older, as a young adult, it's kind of refreshing, right? This is the way to recharge from work, from daily life, and so on. But I think at this stage of my life, it's more like identity, right? This is how I identify with. And it's not so much about the mountain climbing itself, but it's about what the mountain climbing represents. The hard work, the discipline, the challenge that human can do, optimizing your potential. So yeah, I think it's changing depending on the phase of your life.
Okay, so you can say like going from like small mountain and then you challenge yourself to go further and more, and it's become like addicting to you too.
That's right. That's right.
Because let alone I personally would want to try mountain climbing, but I never had a chance to.
All right, on. We should go together.
But from the people that have experience to reach like the top of the mountain, as you said, to witness the beauty of it, the sunrise, like everything is so worth it. All the hard work by climbing it, and especially that you can get to know yourself again, right? And it's something that I just knew from you, from hearing from you. And moving on to the next question, if you've recently been widely discussed due to your success in adding to Indonesia's achievements, and we also saw and stalked your Instagram. You also have your own Instagram account too, or hashtag Jelajah Putri.
Correct. Yeah.
And so you would like to spread out the words, the positive words, for people to try out and not to like be
limiting yourself.
Yes. And be skeptical about that.
True, especially for women, because I'm not sure many people knows, but I'm also an engineer, right? So being an engineer, I'm also always in the world where the woman really not represented very well.
Minority.
So exactly. So so that's what I thought, like, oh yeah, my world is very similar between the mountaineering and the engineering, especially the fact that there's not many women in it, right? But So when I said like, yeah, people should not limit themselves, especially women, because there are special challenges in that world, but it's not impossible. Yeah, we can still work on that. Yeah.
What is it like, though, to be in a world that is very much male-dominated? I mean, in mountain climbing, in the world of exploration, and also in your day-to-day job even.
Yes.
You work in a field where there's mostly men and much less women. How is it like?
Well, I think at the beginning it was challenging. After a while, you get used to it.
Okay.
But when I say you get used to it, it could be good, it could be bad, you know, because there are some bias and stereotype that you're so used to, you did not realize it's not supposed to, right?
Okay.
The good way, probably, you take the requirements on the man world and then take it as your strength and then adapt to it, and you can make it on that world, right?
Okay.
But what I noticed is that if you are the star, like the woman, if you are overachiever, it's very easy on that kind of world to navigate. But the question is now, if you are, I don't want to rank people, but let's say you have A performer, B performer.
Yeah.
If you take the A performer woman, most of these women do not have any problem in this kind of world.
Okay.
But what we're talking about is, if you take the C performer male and then C performer female, the C performer male can survive way better than the C performer female, which is not supposed to, right? So what we want is not the exception, but the norm, right? So like how the woman be in that kind of environment and then just be normal, just like how the men on that kind of environment, right? This is what's challenging.
So not just A performer women, but even B and C performer women can also do whatever they want, including climb mountains and explore both of the poles of the world. Okay. Was it challenging for you to first start out as a woman explorer? Did you have to like prove yourself more? What was it like?
Yeah.
It must be like physically quite challenging as well, right?
Yeah, actually, as an engineer and mountaineer, I personally think being the mountaineer is more difficult.
Oh, okay.
Because whether we like it or not, physically we are different.
Yes.
Generally, like I'm not talking about the woman who is training every day and the man who never train, right? But on the same level of training, biologically, it's different. The men are much stronger, right? So that's we cannot.
They are built different.
Yeah, exactly. We're built different. So, and mountain climbing is really physically challenging, right? And it's all about. Well, it's not all about physics, but it plays important roles on that one. While at work, well, I'm an engineer. If I go to the rig, to the drilling rig, because I'm working on the oil and gas drilling, right? So I went to the middle of the sea. Forget about the physical, because right now our tools is like so huge that you can't even lift it. Not even men can lift it. Use crane, right? So there's nothing like. Yes, it's physically challenging in a way that you are isolated, maybe more mentally than physically. And then now there's a lot of technology that help us out. So I'm working on, when we look for hydrocarbon, there's a lot of data processing, data acquisitions. We play with the sensors, and women are very good in details, in processing and stuff like that, right? So there's a lot of our strength that we could utilize in that kind of world. So it doesn't feel like so physical, you know. And then I go to the mountain climbing, like, wow, it's really physical, you know. I love sports since I was kids, but I've never really been like a trained regularly athlete, right? It's not like that, but I'm just like active person, but not like crazily active. Not to the level that I could climb the mountain just like that. So that was difficult, because then I think this is common to every human, the feeling of not enough and insufficient, right? Especially when you are in the group of people and then you have to walk together, you're always behind. And then especially normally when I go to a mountain, there will be a lot of men from the Western countries, and they are very tall. I have to take like 2-3 steps just
catch up with them.
Catch up with them. It's like, oh my God, you know, like one of their steps like top of my 3 steps.
So that's not only a woman, but a Southeast Asian woman.
Exactly. That's right. That's right.
Physically different too.
Physically very different.
Exactly.
Now,
so
that you just mentioned it. All the challenges being a woman and in those industry, and especially when it comes to climbing mountains as well, to do those physical activities.
Yeah.
You are a very self-driven and positive person, and you believe in yourself and you love challenges.
Yeah.
You're a risk taker, but have you ever doubt yourself too?
Oh, honestly, a lot of times, right? Like, so this is about the mountain climbing and why I like it, because you discover a little bit about yourself and then you try to manage certain things along the way, right? Like when the weather bad, right?
Okay.
Sometimes I could not even walk because the wind just pushed me, right? And then I fall down because of that. It's like, what I'm doing here, you know, like I'm so small. I have my backpack and I'm still shaken by the winds, right? So in a way, it's like you start questioning yourself and then having that kind of conversations, right? Okay, I can do this, and then how I can do that, asking for help, you know, or asking the people who are more experienced, which again, why I like it about the mountaineering, because even in real life, not just during the mountain climbing, you really need that, right? And a lot of people, especially what I notice is the women in the man-dominated field, because we have a lot to prove. It almost feels like we have to work twice harder than anyone else just to prove ourselves, right? So because of that, we tend to not showing the weakness, and asking for help could be
interpreted as a weakness.
Exactly.
And you don't want that to
which
happen.
should not be, you know. So I've always trying to tell people, no, it's very human. It's not a weakness. It's actually a strength, right? So if you need to ask for help, then ask. And it's probably make it easier for the team, because can you imagine if you're in the mountain, you are sick or you are a little bit weak, and then you're not telling anyone, and then let it slide until you can't make it anymore? That's even a bigger problem.
Okay. You'll be jeopardizing the whole team.
Exactly.
Right. So it's not about being the toughest, but being the smartest. Using your head,
I
not
like
just
that
your
word.
body.
Exactly, exactly. And we are a team, right? That's why we have a team.
All right. So I want to talk more about the explorer side of you. Now, we've seen in your Instagram that one of your life goal is to achieve the Explorer's Grand Slam.
Okay.
Which is to climb all 7 highest summits in 7 continents and to reach both poles, the South Pole and the North Pole. Please tell us more. How did you decide on this grand ambition?
So first thing first, there's nothing suddenly, I will say, right? It shapes over the years. Like I said, initially I was just tracking the mountain, 2,000ers, 3,000s, and so on. And then when I was in assignment in Dubai, so normally I have a very long record of international assignment, but everywhere I go, I always try to find the community, the trekking community, because I like trekking. So when I was in Dubai, it's the same way, right? Okay, I'm trying to find my people, my tribes, and then I found them. But I thought like, oh yeah, I'm just going to go trekking just like what I used to do. And then I found the people like, oh, this guy is training for Himalaya, this guy is training for Kilimanjaro. I was like, what's going on here? And then I start looking at all of these mountains, and it inspires me, right? Especially at the time, Dubai is like a small city with the big dreams, so I met the people like the first Arabs who finished the Explorer Grand Slam, and I heard about the first Saudi Arabia woman who summit Everest. Back then, she hasn't finished the 7th summit, but she summited Everest, and it was like, I'm amazed, because that was 2013 where the woman in Saudi Arabia could not even drive. They don't have a driving license. Like, and this girl just dreamed about Everest. Like, how could it be, you know? So I thought like, and
So
how
you
about
saw that
us?
it's possible, actually.
It's possible, and I'm just thinking like, how could a person have that kind of dream? I don't even have that dream back then, right? It's like, and we don't even have quote-unquote limitations in a way, you know, compared to that kind of countries. So that's how I was like, this is so nice, you know, and like about pushing yourself. And they really train very well. Normally, I like trekking, but it's not like I'm training regularly. But since then, I look at the people around like, okay, this is the way we should go, you know?
Yeah, it's like the real quote of like, women inspires women.
Yes, exactly. That's exactly it.
If we're talking about like, the mountains you have climbed. So, how many exactly the peaks that you have conquered?
so far?
Okay. Well, first thing first, we climbers, we do not like to use the word conquer. We conquer ourselves, not the mountain.
Okay, that's nice.
Yeah.
That's deep.
Yeah, exactly. No, believe me, especially if you climb this kind of mountains above 5,000, 6,000.
Okay.
Like you're bit, you know, like totally like overwhelmed with the.
You realize how small you are.
Exactly.
There's no way this.
It's a very humbling
you
experience.
can conquer, yeah.
Exactly,
Okay, I
yeah.
understand.
So for the Explorer Grand Slam series, I've completed 5 mountains and 1 pole. So I still have 2 more mountains and 1 pole.
Which are?
Finson. Finson is in Antarctica, the highest one, and then Everest, the highest one in Asia and the world, and then the North Pole. So the 3 more.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But overall, just like random Indonesia overseas, other than the one in the Grand Slam series, I think over 30 or 50, between 30 to 50, I think. Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah, which one is the most interesting or
Most challenging?
challenging or maybe like something that you cannot forget? It's like one experience that maybe changed your life.
Yeah.
Which one?
Can I say 2 instead of 1? Because a South Pole was very impressive because, you know, first time I went to Himalaya, Himalaya is nearby the equator line, right?
Yeah.
So even though it's very high, it's cold. Yeah, I thought because coming from tropical country, oh damn, this is cold.
Yeah.
That's what I thought, right? And then I went to Denali in Alaska. It's still in the Arctic Circle, but it's not the pole yet. So I thought, oh my God, Himalaya was nothing. That's what I thought, right? It was very cold. And then I went to the South Pole. Oh my God, that Arctic Circle was nothing. You know, like the South Pole is crazy, right?
Okay.
So that was very impressive in a way. Man, now I know what cold is. You know, like. Like when they said cold to the bone, this is it, you know, like this is it. That's what I thought, right?
All right.
So that was very impressive, obviously, at the South Pole, especially because I was the first Indonesian waving the red and white flag there, right? And so that was something that I will not forget.
Okay.
But the other one that is very challenging is Denali, the one I mentioned earlier, the one in Alaska. So I climbed that mountain 3 times before I summited. So the first 2 times failed. And then the 3rd time I made it.
Oh, wow. Okay, never give up on your dreams, yeah?
Yeah.
All right, we're going to talk more about the South Pole, obviously, considering that you are the first Indonesian to reach there. But we're now going to take a short break. Don't go anywhere, starting point. We'll be right back with our very special guest, Putri Handayani. Stay close.
Yes, welcome back, and thank you for tuning in on Starting Point. We still have some points to ask to our mountaineer, Putri Handayani, who become the first Indonesian.
Yes, to reach South Pole.
South Pole.
Wow, that's just amazing. Now, please tell us more about that journey. Maybe we can start from the preparation phase.
Okay.
Like, when did you start preparing for this exploration?
Man, since I was 13 years old.
Since you were born. Already then you know the finish line would be South Pole.
Well, the thing is because it's part of the Explorer Grand Slam, right? So I've never actually stopped training. It became a lifestyle. The difference is just, I think, do you run?
We
from
jog.
reality, maybe.
Okay.
So trying to make it good. We jog. We just go straight into, we run from reality.
No, just like running, if the people likes to go to marathon, right? There is most of these people will be just running as a lifestyle, right? And then when they prepare for marathon or a race, then they start doing it like religiously, right? So I'm the same way. So like even there's no expeditions, I'm trying to maintain my physical fitness. But then when there is expeditions, normally I try 6 months before is really programmed very well. Like the first 2 months base and conditioning, and then the training for the next 2 months, and then the peak training 2 months before the expeditions, right? So that way you have a really good program to build into that.
I see.
So
that's the
just
physical aspect,
just
right?
That's the physical, And then there's a technical aspect. So the technical, before Antarctica, I actually went to 2 expeditions. The first one, I went to Switzerland. So I climbed 8 peaks above 4,000 meters in less than a week.
Okay.
So this 8 peaks is more like, because I haven't seen ice for a while. And believe me, you're shaky when you see ice. You know, like if you see what we wear, even from the crampon, the mountaineering boots, so the South Pole is with ski is very different, right? So it requires some type of training just to get myself familiar again with the snow, with the ice.
Okay.
So
To
I
be
went there.
accustomed to the terrain.
Exactly, yeah. And then that was July in 2023, and then after that in October I went to France, to Chamonix, to learn about all of the skills like winter camping, you know, like actually I've done a few times before, but I believe there's no trained climber. There is only a climber who continuously training, because you forgot things, right? So it's always good to have refresher.
Yeah.
So that's I did just like how you rig up your sled, and then how you handle the cold, how you put on the ski, how you do if there's any emergency, if you fall down to the crevasse. Even though the South Pole there's no crevasse, but like you learn about that kind of thing. So that's the technical part of it.
All right.
And obviously there's a financial part of it. So
yes,
we
would love to know about that.
Exactly. So
it's not the most affordable thing you can do. Go to the South Pole, right?
Yeah. So I think first you have to prepare mentally first. So the mental preparation, and then the physical, technical, and then the financial, right? This mental really play important roles for the rest of the trip, including the financial, right? For financials, like, just mentally get ready to get rejected everywhere, right? And then back up again, and then give it again, you know? So it's a long way.
You look for like some sort of sponsorship and funding.
Exactly.
Then you finally get it, and then you move on to actually going there. Now, I've been on family vacations. I've been to Europe with 2 small kids. Packing was a nightmare. I cannot imagine the logistic for you to go all the way down to South Pole. How do you do it?
So it's almost 6-month preparations too. So the 2 preps that I was telling you earlier, because this is the place where you get gears, right? So even my gears is very difficult to find here. So when I went there, I take time to list the gears that I could not have in Indonesia, and I just bought it there. To go there, it's actually not too bad, because the plane at least will take you to Antarctica. And then after that, from the 89 degree to the South Pole, so we only walk 1 last degree, basically. So 1 degree from 89 to 90 degrees south is about 60 nautical miles, which is 110, 111 kilometers, right? So we walked there for 8 days.
So 100 kilometers on ice.
On ice,
That's
so we put on the ski,
right?
Yeah, exactly.
It's different by
so you have the ski on,
ground.
and then you pull your load, the logistic, the tents and everything on a sled.
Wow.
So that's about 30, 35 kilogram sled that you pull every single day in the cold. And you're dressing like a stormtrooper, like nothing exposed at all.
How many hours each day?
Each day about 8 to 10 hours. And then, so the intense part about the South Pole is that because you have to do everything yourself, right? So you have a guide, of course, but pulling your sled physically, and then once you get there, you have to set up your own tent, and then you melt your own snow for the drinking, and then you cook, and then you sleep, and then in the morning you do it again. You rig down the tent and then pack again, and then you walk again. You get to the next campsite, and then you do it again every day and repeat. So that's very intense. Basically, if you want to divide 8 hours walking on ski, and then 8 hours working, setting up the tent and all of those stuff. If you have anything broken, repairs, and then 8 hours sleep. So that's quite intense expeditions, actually.
To know more about...
That's an understatement, Mbak Putri. Quite intense.
To know more about Putri Handayani's journey, follow Jelajah Putri.
Yes,
that's right.
Definitely.
But, one thing that got me very, very curious before we go to the next question and the conclusion, you're based in Jakarta, in Indonesia, right? A tropical country. So even though you do all the trainings before you go into like a very cold places, isn't it hard? How do you manage that?
Well, I think for the South Pole, because I've been let's say since 2015, I started going to these icy and snowy mountains, right? So maybe it's not too bad because it's been many years. But the first time I went to ice, it's very hard, especially when we have to use the crampon on the mountaineering boots.
Okay.
It's heavy, of course, and then like the type of walking is like it's like a duck.
All right.
It's very difficult, right? You're shaky.
So there's a certain technique that you have to master. To be
Yeah,
able
but then after a
to
while, you get used to it, right? So that's why it's really good just to get used to with the ice and snow and then go there. But even the South Pole itself, you have a few days to train. So I'm not a good skier. I try ski just like when you have a family vacation, maybe, you know, go to the resort and I thought like, oh, this is cute. Go to the rabbit slope, right?
Okay,
And then try the ski.
Yeah.
So I try that kind of ski, but not this type of 8-day ski, not like that, right? So it's very hard on the legs. But we have a few days early. We went to, it's called Union Glacier Camp, where we met with the guides and then take care of the logistic, and then we take some time to train a little bit before we actually go to the South Pole. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Okay, Mbak Putri, I think we can talk with you for many hours to come, but unfortunately, we need to wrap up soon. So last question, Mbak Putri.
Okay.
What's next on your agenda? What's next on the list for you to achieve the Explorers Grand Slam? And maybe a bit of motivational words for our viewers who are also trying to achieve their own dreams of exploration and enjoying the nature, maybe in Indonesia or even globally as you did. Go ahead, Mbak Putri.
So for my next expeditions, I'm going to Mount Vinson in Antarctica. That's the highest one, which I actually tried together when I did the South Pole, but I failed to summit back then. So now I'm going to try again for the second time.
All right.
And then after that, Everest next April 2025, hopefully.
Everest in
in
April
Nepal.
2025.
Yes, correct. And then probably North Pole in 2026, because the season for the North Pole and Everest around the same time. So I just
so you have to choose.
Yeah. Well, I think some
cannot
people
do it on the same year, basically.
Yeah, exactly. So I will do Everest first and then North Pole on the next year. Yeah.
Okay.
What else? Motivation words.
Yes,
oh, okay.
please.
So this is the difficult part.
You'll be the best person.
Yeah, I'm hoping just leading by example. You know what I mean? Like not saying the word, but that's it.
Yeah.
But if I have to say something, I will say, don't be afraid to try something. I think most of the people not achieving things just because we are so afraid to try. Yeah. So with that comes, of course, the risk of failure. So don't be afraid to fail, and don't afraid to get back up again and try again. Right?
Yeah, that's true.
Yeah.
Have you ever fell, like when you on an expedition?
Denali, I climbed it 3 times before I summited. So obviously the first 2 times when I climbed Denali in Alaska, I failed. Well, depend on your definition of fail, right? For me, I was fail better because there's some progress for each climb, right? Yeah. And Vinson also, I didn't make it to the summit. If people definition of failing or success is the summit, for me, all of them is not a failure, you know. It just, you know, some process that I have to go through. Exactly.
Yeah. It's not how many times you fall; it's how many times you go back up again.
Exactly.
You fall.
That's
But
right.
Putri, thank you so much for the massive inspiration. We are so
you
proud
so
to have you
much.
here in the studio this morning. All the best for the rest of your Grand Slam of Explorers. Hopefully you can make it and you can come back here again in the studio to tell us more about it.
Sure, I will.
Share with us all your experience again.
And maybe you both will come with me to the climb sometimes.
Oh, yes.
You get out of the studio and then get to the real
the first
cold.
post cheering for you.
Yeah, we'll be like
not a studio cold, a real cold.
A real cold, yeah. You got us there.
We'll just wait for you on the ground.
At the base.
All right, then that's the end of Starting Point today. Thank you so much for joining us. And once again, thank you to Mbak Putri Handayani for attending our studio. But for now, we bid you adieu. I'm Siska Becker.
And I'm Aisha Fabian. We really wish you a very good day and thank you for watching Starting Point. Bye.